Please welcome Arta Faria, the CEO of Oxygea, and Justin Jackson, partner with Pegasus Tech Ventures. Well, thank you so much for staying and giving us some audience. Thank you so much. My name is Gustavo Brigato. I'm the founder of startups.com.br, a news portal that covers startups in Brazil and Latam. And I cover tech, I cover startups, but I'm kind of old-fashioned. I like notepad and a pencil. And to discuss the secret to innovation, investing in startups, I'll start asking Artur from Oxygea. I don't know if you know, but Oxygea is the venture arm of Braskem, which is one of the Brazilian biggest industrial companies. They're a big chemical company. They just launched the $150 million venture arm, which is Oxygea. So if you guys want to pitch after the panel, he's the guy to be pitched. So is it true? The secret to innovation is investing in startups? I mean, the CEO knows that, your board knows that. And how do you do that? What are the challenges of turning a big company like Braskem to look at startups?
Sure. We knew from the get-go that the best way for us to accelerate the innovation process at Braskem was to improve our exchange with the startup ecosystem. So knowing that we did a lot of benchmark, we studied probably the past 10 to 12 years of the CVC and venture building industry around the world to learn from who did this the right way, who did this the wrong way, so we could get the key success factors and put together what is Oxygea today. I think the first big thing we learned is you needed a dedicated, segregated entity from the parent company. So you could actually get the best of both worlds, and that's what we try to do. On one end, we are as fast as an institutional venture capital, but at the same time, we can leverage the big things of a big corporation such as Braskem, right? And to the context of innovation, I mean, open innovation, which Braskem has for many years, a very established open innovation practice, but we saw that we needed somehow the tip of the spear, and that's where the CVC and the venture building come into play, right? We saw some needs that we needed to fulfill. That's why we have the CVC. We have three mechanisms to exchange with the startup ecosystem. We have incubation, so we can get the businesses that surface from Braskem, and we give them the right chance and the right environment to thrive. So this is the first one. We have acceleration with the prerogative of investment at the end, so we get startups that are in a seed to pre-seed stage in the market that makes sense to us, that we want to really help them out, especially the ones that are looking for deep tech. That's our focus. And we have the third mechanism, which is the CVC per se. It's our outside-in strategy where we do things like Pegasus Tech here does. So we have those three mechanisms. We have a sort of a transversal thesis, which is based on sustainability and digital transformation. That's what we're looking for. So we saw the need to really access those startups because there are pieces of the, I would say, the puzzle that we don't have inside of the company. So going to the market, looking for those startups, we can get that faster and much cheaper as well. Mm-hmm. So why trying to do something internally if we have the option to really foster that into some different startups? So let's invest that startup, let's give them all the resources that they need in order to do that. So to us was very clear that was needed. That's how we do it.
Can you give us a couple of examples of innovations that were invested in all those years of open innovation sure. And that the company really benefited?
Sure thing. So we have proprietary technologies. Braskem is the largest biopolymers producer in the world. We have a proprietary technology that does ethanol dehydration in order to do, I'm not going to bore you, but to do the raw materials for resins. Some pieces of the technology were missing. We went for the market, we looked for solutions, we brought that internally, developed that. We have others that we simply thought it was easier to build the company out of that and put it to the market to see if there was a product market fit and not only applying something for Braskem. So we have these different things that we do, and having those different mechanisms really helps us to really take all the journey of a startup. We can do pre-seed and seed, and went to CVC, we go into Series A and B. So we're able to really see these companies going through the whole ladder.
Good. From a venture capital perspective, how do you see this movement in companies investing in startups? I mean, do you think that they are partners, or are they competitors? Because they're competing in deals as well, right? They have their funds. Artur has sitting on top of $150 million. I mean, it's a pretty good amount of money to invest. So how do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah, there's two perspectives I can focus on. At Pegasus, we're actually managing 39 funds for different corporations running in parallel, single LP funds. So, we've actually seen some of the best transactions we've done is where multiple corporates are coming in on the same deal internally. So internal syndication across our funds. We find that that's helpful because it can help them with particular different aspects. So one corporation can provide value here, another one can provide value somewhere else. For example, we invest in a company called Dispatch Health, which is doing emergency care services at home. And we provided, we were able to invest from multiple companies such as Natera, which is a large kind of spark plug manufacturer today, but they're also really focused on healthcare, so they can provide and be helpful on the diagnostic side or on the medical devices side. In terms of other opportunities we've seen, again, I'm going to focus on the positive, where we also were part of an investment where in a company called Sapphire Technologies, which is doing turbo expanders, connecting to natural gas pipelines and generating electricity from the lost pressure that is not being captured. So in that transaction, we had Chevron, Equinor, and Marathon Petroleum. So 3 of the largest oil and gas companies in the world, all in the same transaction. And so I think there's an element of, where if a company can get all 3 of them on board, it's great for them, obviously, because they have a lot of strategic investors who can help them grow their business. But also at the same time, it actually helps the corporations feel comfortable that this is a solid company for all of them. And yeah, there's definitely some risk of maybe one of them wants to buy the company out or have more control over the pipeline, but usually, a lot of these large CVCs are understanding that they need to allow the startups to have room to be able to grow. So I think everybody's understanding that at this point.
Yeah, so companies, I understand that you need a good governance, right?
You want the company, you want to optimize the potential growth of the company, therefore you don't want to hamstring them too much. Obviously, the corporates are going to have their objectives and they're going to try to negotiate certain deals on the side, so you can't necessarily get around that, but it doesn't mean that you're going to lock them down completely. You can have preferential treatment, you can have a good deal, but it doesn't mean that they're locked in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I second that. I mean, I think it's very healthy for any startup cap table to have multiple corporations through CVCs, but it's also very healthy to have some names of the industry there, right? Some venture capital. I think they're the ones that have the glue to bring these different corporations. I think that's very important. And just taking one of Justin's point here, we learned that we needed to be very founder friendly.
Okay.
So we don't do things like we want a ROFR or we want to some preference here or there. We really act as an institution venture capital. That's how we try to position ourselves, because we saw in the past, I think the CVC industry didn't work that really well, and it got some, I would say, not very good results back then.
Yep.
But now I think they're in a point where they know that they need to be more founder friendly and how they can really help. So I think we reached that point. At least some of the, that's what we try to do, and some, I'm sure your clients do the same.
I don't know how many founders are here in the audience, but I mean, from founders I speak with and the people who are in this industry for longer, I mean, a lot of founders drive away or try to run away from companies from getting, participating in acceleration programs or innovation challenges because they fear the big corporations, right? When they come and they have the terms and they think it's M&A. So do you think that this is changing?
And absolutely, I mean, I take our example. We have a rule. Every time we're looking for an investment, at the end of the pitch that we're listening to these different startups, so we tell them, okay, give me your wish list. What can I do for you? If I can't help you, I won't invest in you. That's our internal rule, right? And we have the ways to make sure that our parent company really help those startups. We have this. We identified internally at Braskem some VPs and their entire verticals, and what we have is on their goals for the end of the year, things that will impact their bonuses. Let's say that one guy specifically has 15 to 25% of that. One of the goals is to provide support for Oxygen, and by design its own, the whole of our portfolio. And in the end of the year, I'm the one that grades them on those specific 15 to 25%. So it's a way that we found to not only have the alignment, but have the commitment. And there's a big difference between alignment and commitment. So that's what we get from the parent company, the commitment.
Do you see that as well, Justin? You said you run
39 funds.
39 funds. I mean, some older, some newer. You see that difference?
I mean, I would actually focus on the angle of, venture capital is a business of outliers, right? So you do want to find the best companies. And so if you just look at that sample, not that, in general, but those companies have plenty of capital chasing them. Mm-hmm. So I often hear that they want to know what else you have to offer. Sure. So sure. I think just from that perspective, which should pass through, most companies also want to know what else you're bringing besides capital. So yeah, I think that's generally what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, from a founder perspective, I mean, when you get a corporate money, or invested from a CVC perspective, it's harder to become a unicorn, to grow, be a large company. Usually, you have an early exit. More often, you have early exits than large companies. Is it worth it? I mean, it depends on the.
This is kind of a bad example, but it's like on everybody's mind, right? So like Microsoft deal with OpenAI, right? Microsoft's
okay, good.
A strategic, right? So.
But it's an example.
I think they're doing okay.
It's an example.
Yeah, but that's the outlier. Yeah, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, our case, we focus on deep tech, right? So it's longer cycles, bigger rounds. It's difficult to do deep tech in, very well-established ecosystems such as Silicon Valley. Imagine how it is to do in Brazil. It's much more difficult. So we really have to do things on a different way. We really have to foster the local environment. And we see, back to Justin's point, I mean, if you can really get this very good syndicate to invest in those companies, I mean, it's what we tell these startups is, I don't see how we're not a very good investor, provided that we can mimic what these institutional venture capitals will ask you, but at the same time, we can bring all this support that we can bring from the parent company, right? In our case, we're the first, I would say the first stage of the chemical industry in Brazil, so, and we are the biggest. So we have access not only to these startups, we'll have access not only to Braskem, but to our entire ecosystem, thousands of clients. So that's something that we bring to the table, and that's how we help them. So, and the VCs, they like that, having someone that, with technical expertise, like specific expertise in their industry. So I think it's a good symbiosis, and I think, I mean, these guys, they run 39 different funds. I mean, they've been doing this for a while, so.
In the US, companies represent like 25% or something of venture capital investment, right? I'm not sure the exact number, but it's between 20 and 30%, huge amount. In Brazil, it's like 10%, growing because of the VC winter and everything. But can we say that every company will be a VC company? I mean, every company will have to establish a VC arm, a CVC, whatever. Will be part of the business, or like M&A, like you have an M&A area, people. Do you think that startups will come and have to be that as well? Every company will have to be a VC company in a way?
You want to start? I have
No,
a very
I think
specific-
your platform's really
Okay.
good. I think you can highlight the holistic approach you guys are doing.
I think there is a FOMO in terms of CVC. Everyone is trying to do a CVC. I think many of these companies will only have one fund. I don't think their programs will have longevity, because if you don't establish the right rules, and if you're not structured enough, you're just gonna. I don't want to use the word waste money, but I think there are better uses for that capital, right? You can allocate that in a better way. But I think those companies, they're looking and they're seeing that, you know, this is really part of their innovation. That's how I can innovate faster and cheaper. That's clear to everyone, but how to do that in a very structured way, it's hard. So what I would recommend is, we studied a lot, right? But if you can piggyback in someone that has that expertise, like these guys that have been doing this for decades, so you can really tackle and tap into that specific environment. I did M&A for, I don't know, 15 years. It's a whole different ballgame, right? VC is a different ballgame. You need to really be in the ecosystem and understand that. So if you don't have, again, I think it's, especially in Latin America right now, it's a lot of CVCs coming up. And I see a lot of people doing benchmarks with us right now because of the structure that we put in place. But I don't see that much structure in many of those. So I don't think they're really gonna survive this, because you have the honeymoon, right? I'm still in the honeymoon from my end. I mean, it comes to a point where you need to start giving some financial returns, and that's where I think those companies will.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, I think one thing that's been becoming clearer and clearer is that the goal is to identify, are there any companies that can really drive business growth for you, right? And then can you just keep doubling down on those companies that can have the biggest impact on the corporate? Because that's what's going to sustain, and no matter who's there this year, 5 years, 10 years, the CEO is going to look and see kind of what have you done for the corporate, right? You know, so that's one thing. I think second is that, you know, your program, you've got accelerator, you've got a CVC, you've got multiple things going on. I think that that's really good to have different, you know, angles of the program. I think you need to have a holistic perspective of like, what is the goal here? There's different processes of identifying a bunch of companies worldwide that are strategically relevant, or technologies that are strategically relevant for our corporation, and how can we tap into those companies? How can we partner with them? Because we can't do it all. So yeah. I think, yeah.
I think that's something we learned. I mean, collaboration is the name of the game.
Right.
When we're talking about VC, that's one of the few fields where I, being the head of Oxygen, can really tap into Brasken's competitors. Something that the parent company will have difficulty, the parent companies will have difficulty to do. But in this game, everybody knows it's very tough. You know, you need to multiply the chances of you know, an investment or a startup to really thrive in this environment. So they really come together, right? And I think that's gives more, again, more probability to finding the right path. So, and we have these different mechanisms which helps us. One thing that we did that we learned is you're never gonna hear us saying, okay, we're gonna do this because we only invest in that startup because that startup needs to do business with the parent company. We don't do that. Okay. I mean, it's wishful, obviously, but on the sense that if we can help them by having the company, our parent company, to do business with them, and that works, fantastic. But we already have our strategic alignment in our thesis that was well defined, and indirectly, these companies will do some good for our corporation, right? Some positive externality. So we don't really focus on, no, we need to do business with our parent company, nothing like that. So, and that's different from many players we see out there.
Great. Just to wrap up, maybe we've touched this topic a little bit here, but what do you see going next, going forward, right? And what's coming for open innovation, and some tips, especially for founders in the audience, or for companies to establish their open innovation or to improve their operations for the ones that already have something going on?
Yeah, I'll take the second part. So I think for founders that are interested in working with particular CVCs, you can clearly identify what corporate, you can create the business case for them in many respects. You know, they have particular areas that they may want to work with companies like yourself. You could help clearly frame that up for them, and that will differentiate you from most companies. Yeah, so like how you may want to collaborate. Like in the energy space, you have a particular asset that if we can do a first of a kind pilot with you at this asset, this is going to help you because of this. And so that's one way.
Absolutely. Well, my 2 cents, again, I think in terms of, when I think in terms of corporate innovation, way things are moving, I think more and more corporations realize that they need to exchange more with the startup ecosystem. Not every company is ready. There's that saying that says, are you ready to really do business with a startup? Try to buy something from them. See how long it takes for your
That's a good test.
Your procurement department to really put some company in there. You know, they're going to have all kinds and all sorts of problems, right? Prior to having our vehicle, we tried to invest from the balance sheet in one startup in Brazil, and we almost killed the startup because you know, it took us 9 months because, you know, I needed 2 months because I needed board approval regardless of the size because of our bylaws. So that's what. And we almost killed the company. So we went back to our board and say, hey, look at this. We can't have this. So help us with this structure. It needs to be very segregated from the company. So, but I think those companies, they realize they need to do businesses with startups, but they need to be ready to do that. Otherwise, it's going to be a not an ideal situation. Let me put it that way.
For no side, right? Because the corporation won't take advantage, and the startup may die in the process.
No, yeah,
right?
yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it's one thing that we see, which is very clear. We hear a lot of these startups say, "Hey, we need help in escalating the businesses," right? So we have, you know, all the departments necessary to build facilities that we've done in the past. And these, you know, startups, they don't have that expertise. You can't have that with 10 or 20 people. It's impossible, right? You don't have the resources. You simply don't have those. So we try to explain to them like how to think 3-4 steps ahead before you know you take a very big decision here. And I think one thing that they're learning is for many years, I think they saw CVCs and corporations as exits. That's the exit strategy. Say, hey, I'm not going to do business with you now because you're going to be my exit strategy down the road. But the fact is, if you don't have someone really helping you get there, you won't have an exit strategy. So it's sort of, you know, who came first, you know, the chicken or the egg. So I think that's
from a founder perspective, always charge for proof of concept.
Oh, yeah.
Never do things for free.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely get budgets for proofs of concept at corporate.
If you can get one thing out of this, is get you know, make sure it don't work for free. I fully agree.
Sure. Thank you so much, guys. We have only 30 seconds left, so it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for staying here. See ya.
Thank you.